Football then and now, a fun look at football nostalgia and the modern game intertwined. Join us.
Well, a warm welcome. This is Football Then and Now, episode 44, and we are on the Sports Social Podcast Network, of course. Please check these guys out. If you've got a podcast and you'd like to come on board with them, guys, please think of them. I can even put you in touch with the people that run it. They are after more sports content. Doesn't matter what sport you cover, they would gladly take you on. So yeah, big props to them guys and everything they've done for me and Chris with Football Then and Now, and Stu's Wrestling Podcast, of course. But waiting in the wings is my guest for episode 44. It is a returning guest and Tottenham Hotspur fan, John Scott, back on Football Then and Now for his first appearance in 2025 on the show. How are you, John?
I'm good, mate. Is it my first appearance? Wow. And this year. Seems like not that long ago.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now, you guys are playing tomorrow evening, of course, AZ Alkmaar, who you took on earlier on in the competition in the Europa League, and you beat them 1-0. So, yeah, just looking ahead to tomorrow evening's game, of course, at 5:45 kickoff UK time, and just like what you think will happen and how it's going to go for you guys tomorrow evening.
Well, I'm hopeful. Let's put it that way, mate. I'm hopeful. If we're being honest, we've had a real rotten season. I don't really want to go into all the, too many injuries, not too many injuries, all the rest of it, the excuses. But we haven't had a good season. Let's put it that way. But I said to somebody a couple of weeks back, this is before of course, we got knocked out by Liverpool in the semis of the League Cup, before the FA Cup. I said then that I didn't think we'd get through against Liverpool. I didn't think we'd get through against Villa. But I looked at this Europa Cup draw and I just kind of said, Stu, as long as we stay up, like, we're not going to make Champions League now, so forget that in the league. As long as we stay up, I think they should put all their eggs into this basket and go a little bit old school and, prioritise for this Europa Cup, because it is really winnable. I know that Tottenham for a while have been made odds-on favourite with the bookies, but that means nothing, obviously. But if I was Daniel Levy, if I was Ange Postecoglou, I would be saying, listen, let's prioritise this cup, because it basically keeps Daniel Levy happy, Stu, because he's going to get Champions League out of the winning this. And secondly, it's a trophy, which is going to, have a lot of heat off Ange Postecoglou, who obviously came out with that claim earlier in the season, Stu, about always winning a trophy in his second season, which I think has haunted him a little bit, if I'm being honest. But listen, whilst we've got players coming back, it should be a perfect opportunity for Tottenham to step up and literally have a go at this competition. I really think so.
How do you feel about playing away first? What your thoughts and feelings are? I know obviously there's no away goals now, of course, across these competitions, but do you think it's better? Do you think it's better playing them away first?
I always prefer the away leg first in this type of thing. But like you say, without the away goals, it does take away some of that burden. But I think really, listen, I'll be happy with a draw at the very least in that game. Just get it a draw and then bring it back to White Hart Lane, and hopefully we do the job there. I would expect us to get through on this game, but like, nothing is a given. Let's be honest.
Who's coming back in as well? Obviously, you're saying about players coming back through. Who could make a start? Did I read Odegaard could be back? Am I right in thinking that?
Yeah, he's been out for a little while. He did come on briefly a few weeks ago and have a little stint in the team. But I think the biggest problem we've got now really is only the centre-back, Stu. It's literally Van der Ven and Romero. But I've been impressed with Kevin Danso that they brought in. He seems like he's been a good filler. And poor old Archie Gray, Stu, he's done tremendously well, but he's played in like 4 different positions in this team. So he's doing a great job. I'm not massively happy that he's always at the back, but he's been doing okay. I think in a game like this, we should be fine. I think the issue I have is up front. Obviously Dom's still out, Solanke, so it does come down to some other players filling in that position. But honestly, I think we should have enough for us to get through on this. I'm fingers crossed anyway, mate.
Hopefully, like you say as well, trophy and the lure of the Champions League through winning it. So, yeah, I think also Who I'm just trying to think of other teams in it who are still in this. Who would you be looking out for in the later rounds?
I think the other obvious one is, and they've had a diabolical season, is Manchester United, and that's the potential, that could come up. But I think past that, they're all winnable games. This is why Spurs have been made favourites. But I think the difference with this year, Stu, is obviously there's no dropouts of the Champions League. So pretty much all the way through this campaign, we've known what could be coming ahead, which does make a lot of difference. And I will say I've enjoyed it a lot more as a competition than I have previous years, just because as well as I do, when you're playing this Europa Cup, the time you get into the latter stages, it's over, because then Barcelona comes flooding in, or Real. Do you know what I mean? You might as well forget it. So I'm a little bit happier that you can see what's ahead for this one. But one game at a time, I suppose. I think it'd be a real shocker if we went out. Let's put it that way.
How have you felt with the extra 2 games in this in the group stage as well? We spoke, I think, briefly last year about it. It's gone from 6 games to 8, and obviously we had the break, didn't we, around Christmas? And they came back and played the last 2 across both tournaments and the Conference League, of course. How have you felt? How have you felt about that? I know, obviously, that you've been stretched at times with the injuries, but how has that gone for you, having the extra games in this?
Yeah, I think it's. I mean, if in the Europa League standpoint, I think it's not really been too much of a dramatic. I just think the level of teams that we're playing are not as intense. Maybe if we was in the Champions League playing an extra 2 games, we'd have a lot of problems. But really, he's been able to sort of rest a few players in that competition, because who we're playing just aren't really at that level. No disrespect to them, but I think in the Champions League, those extra 2 games would cause a lot of problems if you've got a few injuries, to be honest.
I hope you do it, John. I really do. I hope you get it. You lift that trophy, and then he can look to next year, can't he, domestically? Then, as you say, and get his grit, get to grips of it. But I think maybe we can talk about the league a little bit. Actually,
sure.
Segueing.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, Stu, that that obviously he's been lucky. A lot of people had him down for he was going to get sacked, and they were thinking he's going to be out the door. And most of the teams down there, they'd all changed manager apart from Tottenham. But it's one of those things. Who else is available? Who else have Tottenham got to go through? I said this last time I was on the podcast. I think that we've gone through world-class managers like Conte, Mourinho. I think the biggest issue with Tottenham is always at the top is Daniel Levy. It's not so much how much he's spending. I think people get confused with that, with how much we actually offer out on wages. And the wage cap that he's got at the minute is ridiculous compared to all the competitors around us. Heung-min Son, I think he's just under 200k, which obviously is for you and me, Stu. We take that, we bite someone's arm off for that.
Would we?
I'd take that over a lifetime. So but I mean, for him, in a football sense, in the Premier League against the other rivals, that's where we're sort of like not attracting that sort of elite player that can go up. But it's been a crazy season, mate. Obviously, whilst we're here, Stu, and I can see the Everton top on. I can see the morale has come up from the last time, because I think Moisey was coming in. I'd messaged you a few times when that was happening, and you seemed very positive about it. I did see a lot of other fans that maybe were a little bit shaky about it, and let's be honest. I've seen managers go back to clubs and it doesn't always work. I've definitely seen that, and you think, blimey, that's just tarnished their career that they had. But he looks like he's at home. He looks like he's not missing a beat, and he understands not only the club but the culture and what it means, and probably the perfect candidate to take you into that new stadium there.
It's like two losses in 9 if you count, going out of the cup to Bournemouth. Just unbelievable. 15 points from 8. And the first game, it could be argued, I've said previously, it could be argued the Villa game, we might have got a draw as well out of that. A few draws as well, don't get me wrong, but all in all, John, unbelievable. I don't think people felt it was going to go this well. He's been absolutely brilliant. Just the ethos, we, I, us, just the way he's talking, and they've been warm weather training in Abu Dhabi the past week, so he's had a full week with no game. which I think he needs as well. As good as it's been going, he's had a good week with the lads. Jake O'Brien's been playing fullback. Dyche, he just couldn't get a look in under Dyche. Could not get a look in. He has been brilliant. He's been so good, and he's naturally a centre back. He's been brilliant at right back. There's just so many. Beto. I'll hold my hands up now. Slated him. Said he's not going to be Premier League standard, and then he's gone and done what he's done. He's been absolutely brilliant. He's been prolific. All right, Brentford, John. He could have maybe had a hat trick. I was expecting him to put those chances away, but just the way we're playing, I think more direct. A lot more attacking. It's been a joy. It's been an absolute joy. And I tried with Dyche, as you know. I stuck by him till the very end, but those last couple of weeks before that, enough was enough.
Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? Because I remember when he came in when Lampard, and I think you would have probably got relegated with Lampard at the time, if I'm honest, because it just didn't seem like there was any hope of where he was going. So I think Dyche, he definitely in that first season saved you. That's for sure. But it just didn't look like he had that next to sort of get to the next level with Everton. Whereas I feel David Moyes, I think he's going to be. I just think he understands the club better, and he's obviously been there before. But it is a bit of a gamble with someone like him. But I think at Everton he's going to do a good job.
I'm just looking as well, going back to you guys down there, look at your goal difference compared to everybody else's. You've got such good goal difference down. A few wins you can be up, can't you? You really can. It's not the end. It's definitely not the end.
I've sort of written off this season, if I'm honest. Like I say, if it comes down to where we're in, the quarterfinals of the Europa, and we've got a game on the Thursday, and we're playing somebody, I would rather he prioritise to the cup, and it is a bit of an old school thing because these days the league is everything. Back when I was growing up, the FA Cup was probably as big as the league, winning the league at the time. Now look how times have changed. I would go old school on this a little bit, try and go for that.
What are you thinking now? I've got to be honest with you. Wolves have got a 5-point advantage on Ipswich. Ipswich hit a bit of form and then it went. Rude just can't get going. They've lost how many home games now, Leicester, amongst the bad results away. It's just not happened for him. I think the bottom three will be the bottom three, but obviously Matthias Cunha is banned. We play them. We play them on a Saturday night at 8:00. But I think Wolves will have enough to stay up now, don't you?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, it's Man United you've got to wonder about these days, Stu. But I'm sure they won't. But wishful thinking. But yeah, I feel for Leicester a little bit. I feel more for Rude because I think when he went in, the rumblings is that he was promised a little bit of kitty in the January window, and that never happened. So I don't know he hasn't obviously come out publicly because he's kept professional, but I wouldn't be surprised if at the end of the season, they part ways and Rude comes out and says, well, actually, I was promised X, Y, Z in January when I came in, because I can't believe they didn't, give him a little bit of backing in that window. It seems crazy, but it does seem like they're going to go back down. Ipswich, fair credit to them. When you look at the difference now, when you come up from that league, especially with Ipswich. Now, Leicester and Southampton have been going up and down a few times, but for Ipswich, they haven't been there for a long time. So it was always going to be a struggle, but it would be an absolute sort of amazing thing if they did somehow manage to stay up. But I think I'm like you, Stu. I think the three that we're seeing now at the bottom will be the three that go down.
It'd be interesting to see where Liam Delap goes next summer. I've heard.
He's a good player.
Friend of mine's a Chelsea fan. He said, I'd love him on the basis that they're calling that Isak's going to be 150 million apparently. All right, that might be structured into a deal, but it's a big outlay. He said, I'd like Liam Delap. You could probably get Liam Delap for a third of the price, essentially.
Yeah.
So he said, because we've got the players in the team that can feed him, he wouldn't be opposed to Liam Delap coming to Chelsea. But what about Isak? Where do you think Isak would go in your mind?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because Newcastle, when they got the takeover, everyone was like, well, now they've got the riches of the rich. But because of obviously FFP and all the rest of it, they can't do anything, and they need to almost sell to be able to buy. And this is the problem they've had, which really restricts them. So, I know the 150 million mark has been bandied around, but then you think to yourself, I know it's ridiculous, Stu, we're talking about 150, but in a lot of ways, you could buy two players, and I've seen average sort of players go for 60 million these days. But you think, well, why wouldn't you just combine it a little bit and put in an offer for somebody who's as good as Isak? You know what I mean? So I don't know. I would be very concerned for everybody else if suddenly, because since he's been in at Liverpool, your rival Stu, he hasn't really touched the transfer kitty that much. He's been very smart. He's used their strengths. But if suddenly Slot said, well, actually, that's the one player I want to put up front, up top, I could see that being a good fit. Then again, talking of rivals, Tottenham's rivals, Arsenal. Everybody's been saying they need a striker. We see what happened a couple of weeks ago when Havertz got injured when they went out on a tour. You'd think he'd be perfect, but the whole thing when they signed Declan Rice, is that a one-off, or would Arsenal do something like that again? Do you know what I mean? Because
big outlay.
I do feel like it worked for him, but they haven't really backed up much in the last summer, and I think it stopped them a little bit, and they'll be so disappointed that they've not managed to kick on because you look at the way Liverpool have been. But honestly, Stu, let me ask you. I mean, Isak, from what you've seen of him, especially this season, how good is he? For you, where do you rank him?
He is brilliant. He's come on great guns this year. Scored a lot of goals. It's only Salah and Haaland above him in the goal scoring. He's not been as injury prone this year, but he is known. He's known for injuries. That's my only negative about this lad. But my God, coming from Spain, coming in from Spain, he's done fantastic. Coming into the league to score the amount of goals he's got. My only criticism is this injury prone.
How much was it around 70 million?
It was, I think, if not,
it's crazy. It's crazy when you hear that figure, and then you see like Højlund that went to Manchester United for what, 80 million.
Yeah.
And you're looking at the two, and you know what I mean? Like, Christ, someone's done a hell of a. I mean, I know we probably couldn't see it coming. They probably didn't realise how good he was going to be, but. He's just got something about him, really has. It would be a shame for Newcastle. I mean, I'm probably disrespecting Newcastle in saying they can't keep him. I think they can keep him, but like I say, it's the whole issue with this FFP thing with whether they have to sell to be able to go again. That's the biggest problem they've got, or whether they'll try and sell in other areas because their squad is so bare at times, Newcastle.
It's going to be a huge gap. And then, Callum Wilson played the game before last because Isak was out. But again, he's not getting any younger and he's more injury prone than Isak is. So it's not, they're going to have to go in for somebody with that kitty. Like you say, we don't know how much they're going to have because they're being careful. They've got to then replace him. Which it's a massive void, but that's my only bugbear with Isak. Love him as a player. I just think it's if he gets injured and he's known for injuries, that's a big amount. That's a big chunk of change. That's otherworldly, isn't it? In terms of transfer, fee.
Absolutely.
So it's going to be. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. But Arsenal, just quickly on some, because you were talking about them, they're missing. They have missed Saka as well. I know that the striker's been a problem for a long time, but Wanyeri looks a good player. Miles Skelly's been getting played. He's been playing them, hasn't he? But they have missed Saka. They look fantastic.
Saying that they had a hell of a result this week.
I bet you loved that. I bet you loved that, John, didn't you, last night? I left it.
Couldn't believe it when I saw it.
I left it at 3-1, and I looked 7-1. Oh my days!
It's unbelievable. Fair play.
He can rest people for the second leg now. Arteta.
Yeah. No, fair play. I mean, I've seen worse teams win the Champions League. So I mean, I remember the year Chelsea went and won it out of nowhere with Tuchel when he came in, and nobody expected that. So it's definitely winnable. That's for sure, especially with the draw. Let me just quickly, Stu. I know we are talking about the league, but the Champions League. I know we was talking about that structure, and I said I'd give it a fair run until we get to a certain position whether I'd like it or not. But I think the only thing I'd say that's been a little bit disappointing is that, Liverpool that finished top of that league, a bit like they do this in the MLS. They'll have a league, you win it, but you're like, well, what was the point of winning it? Because then it just goes into a playoff. So it's like you get a little trophy. Now, for me, I don't know really what Liverpool have got out of it, because then they got PSG, and it just seems a little bit like, I don't know. Should they have been given another? I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you change the format, but do you almost give them another bye and wait till
there's got to be
the next thing, or
there's got to be some sort of like a pot of gold there with topping it. And again, they had a 100% record till the last game because he rested people, didn't he? Because he knew we're top. That's it. Yeah. They should, or where they're seeded. I know obviously PSG had to go into the playoff round, didn't they? It's just, you need some sort of incentive, I think, where, not to knock and say it's a lesser team that you get, but because tonight, they're going to be in a dogfight tonight with PSG. They've looked pretty good, haven't they? Ousmane Dembele back in form. It took him a long time to get form. It's not going to be easy that tonight for Liverpool, and I think Slot knows that, doesn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to bring that up and see what your thoughts were, because that was my only takeaway, and also the fact that there are home nation teams playing each other this early seems a bit crazy as well. That's like Bayer Leverkusen and Bayern, and then you've got the Madrids, it just doesn't sit with me, because then I think to myself, well, how's that fair then? Because I know they're going to give an extra place depending on how many home nations go forward. But then if you're drawn against each other like that in the first bit, it seems a bit chaotic to then do it that way. You know what I mean? So, but again, these are probably things they're going to have to learn from to maybe adjust slightly next year, I guess.
I have enjoyed it though, John, because I was a bit like, everyone was a bit, what's it going to be like? I've enjoyed having Champions League Match of the Day on BBC as well. I've really enjoyed that. It's been nice. It's been nice. And, everyone was a bit skeptical. Oh, it's 8 games. They've got more games. I mean, we spoke about this, didn't we? About the amount of games, players getting injured and stuff like that. But I think in the main, it's gone pretty well across all 3 competitions. Actually, would you think that's a fair assessment?
No, absolutely. I can't say I've watched too much of the of the conference, but I mean, for my money, Chelsea they should be winning that hands down.
I mean, they've
been playing a ridiculous team in that every week.
They've got Copenhagen. When you look at the other team, Copenhagen, are probably one of the stronger teams. To be fair,
some of the teams. I've never heard of them. I'll be honest with you, I've never heard of them. But it is crazy to see Chelsea in there playing in that this season.
I mean, he'll want to win it, Maresca.
Yeah, absolutely.
Look at Jose with Roma years ago. Moisey with West Ham. You're in it. You're in it. You've got to win it.
Oh I'll definitely be going for it. It was Tottenham, might be the same. Yeah.
I think we'll just pick a couple of games for Sunday, and I'll start with yourselves, of course, because you guys play Sunday, we're playing Thursday. I'll just get the right thing.
I'll be there.
I've got the wrong thing coming up, but I'll find it for us now. That's Saturday. I got Sunday here. Yeah. So yourselves, you're back home after the trip to Holland on Thursday, and it's Bournemouth, who have been absolutely fantastic have they been, John?
So good.
They've been amazing.
I mean, I've been probably just as impressed with them as Forest this season, because I remember when they got rid of they brought in the new manager, and the chairman came on TalkSport and was talking, and everyone was sort of slagging him off, saying, "You don't know what you're doing," and he was like, "No, we're going to go out. We're going to try and do what Brighton are doing. We're going to try and get these players from around Europe, because that's where we're getting more value for money." And I think one of the first players they got was Justin Kluivert, and he's been absolutely brilliant this season. Like I know he scores a lot of penalties, but he's just been unbelievable considering what I saw him do in Italy and Spain before that. But you just think to yourself, like, it is definitely you can still do these things, like even with a team of squad like Bournemouth. I'm actually. I've got to be honest with you. I mean, I'm not in a good place for Sunday, because I actually think Bournemouth are going to cause us so many problems if we're not careful, especially when they attack, because they are so good. I mean, fair. I would love to see them get a Europe spot. I really would.
They're right. Look at that. You know, they're only 4 points off City.
Yeah,
It's
mad,
crazy. There's a cluster of them there as well. Like, you know, you can make a case from Villa upwards. You know, they're all in contention for top
Yep.
four at the
Yep.
moment. I know there's 11 games to go. There's a lot of football to be
No,
played yet. But
it's all
it's
there to
tight.
be played
Saying
for.
that, Villa have obviously played an extra game, so you could probably take them out of it at the moment. But Brighton as well. They lost a bit of form under him, and I was like, oh, are they going to start dropping now? But he's got the form back, Ursula. They've looked really good. I've been impressed with them as well. I really have.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
you know, he's only just come into the league this season, and they've been brilliant as well. It just goes to show, like you say, doesn't it? You know, they haven't got mega resources, Bournemouth especially, but it can be done, as you say.
Yeah. This is what our clubs are having to do, and I think Brighton are a perfect example of what you can do as a club, because you look how much. I mean, all right, they've been to the bank of Chelsea. Let's be honest, the amount of money that they have given them on compensation fees for managers, players. I mean, it's ridiculous how much money. But look how better they've been at recruitment, and not only like buying players, but like buying and selling. And I know it's not always about business, but Brighton have got it down to a T. They're not only buying players for their first team, they're thinking of the future. And, you know, I heard their chairman come on recently, and he said, you know, we didn't have to accept Matoma. When the Saudi clubs come in, they said no, because he wanted to stay. And they said in years gone by, they would have had to have said yes. But this is how different things are now in the Premier League. And I think it's a really good model to be going off of, if I'm honest.
They've only lost 6 games in 27 as well. I know the draws, if you're going to take anything away, you can look at draws.
Yeah, but
the
still.
draws, they've had 10, but they're right in there. They're right in there.
I mean, and Danny Welbeck, you know,
oh my days.
How the heck is he still doing it?
My United mate says, can we have him back? He said, I'd have him back in a heartbeat. He can still score goals. You know, he's been brilliant. Minter, you know, he was highly touted, wasn't he? Other clubs were looking at him. Everton were. I don't think we had the money to do it, to be honest with you. I've been very impressed with Minter for them as well. And going back, I spoke about Matoma on here about 3-4 weeks ago. He's got his form back again that he had, you know, a couple of years ago. He was unplayable in games. So they're just brilliant. You can't say enough good things about them.
The great thing about them is they'll lose Caicedo, they'll lose McAllister, Cucurella, whoever, but they are replacing these players with somebody else. You don't know who they are when they come through the door, but you certainly know them after 6 months. And you're thinking, blimey, that value's gone up. You know, it's gone crazy. So whoever's doing recruitment, honestly, fantastic.
Could do with him at Everton, I tell you.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think every club could.
But Bournemouth have got Ivan Nilsson back. He played in the cup game last week against Wolves, of course. But Dango Ataro was doing all right up top for him as well, you know. And Semenyo's been really, really good. I've been very impressed with him. But Ivan Nilsson, you know, it's a big one. Him coming back, isn't he? Not great potentially for you guys. Him being back, but. Yeah. What about a prediction, John? What would you say?
Well, I think my heart wants to go with a win, obviously, but I think my head's going to say a draw. I honestly think it'll be a draw. I think it'll be a high-scoring one as well. I think it's going to be quite open, just because of how we play. But yeah, I'm going to say a draw.
It'd be interesting. Very, very interesting. That on Sunday at 2 p.m. It's on Sky Sports Premier League, of course. And then we've got Man United versus Arsenal at 4:30, straight after you guys as well. So, yeah, United. It's I've heard all sorts of stuff.
It's one of those things, this fixture, because I think the more years it goes on since the Fergie days, the less it feels like. I mean, I know when you and I grew up, Stu, this is probably the fixture every year. You know, people used to love this because it was feisty and everything. But I think in the last few years, you know, yes, it does have an element of that because of the history. But I mean, this is not Man United of the past. That's for sure. I mean, this is crazy. I mean, I'm interested to get your views on Amarin at the moment, Stu. Like where you sit with him. I see the most ridiculous posts sometimes, but then I think, well, nothing would surprise me where they say, you know, his job's on the line. You know, they've done all this to bring him in. They spent an absolute fortune again. the behind the scenes business with the club doesn't seem all that great
No,
either. But I won't even go into that. But the amount of cuts they're doing,
cutting stuff food.
yeah,
You'd be better off at Strange Ways with 3 square meals a day. Do you know what I mean? It's just that's ridiculous. You know,
and the amount of people that have gone, you know, it's crazy.
It's the whole thing. It's not just him getting the squad right, and again, it's just all over the place, isn't it? It's going to need a whole rebuild potentially.
He's come from Sporting where they played that system, but I think he would have known. Man United, they recruited on Ten Hag players, and those players can't play that system. There's no way. So Man United need to really back him. I think that the issue he's got, it's a bit like Ange Postecoglou, Stu. He's kind of dug his heels in and said, this is the way I'm going to play, and I can't change it now because as soon as I don't play that, the players won't believe in it. So because he's publicly said that, he's sort of put himself into a corner where it's like, rather than manage the current affairs to sort of try and get him out of this ridiculous position, he's almost got to bear what's going on at the moment. And you can see huge gaps and holes when Man United are playing because that system's just not suiting the players at the moment. But similar to Ange Postecoglou, what I will say, and if you've watched any Tottenham games of recent, you'll notice he's not quite as crazy with this high line business anymore. And I think secretly, whoever he's done it on the slidey one, he has actually been a bit more practical. And I do feel like, I do like Amorim. I do think he's a quality manager, but I don't think Man United are backing him enough. To be honest with you, they didn't do much in January, and I don't know. I've just got the way everything's going at Man United. It just looks horrendous, doesn't it?
Apparently, Kobe Mainoo was hearing. I heard on Talk Sports today. It was reported that he was after 180 grand. It's 150,000. Apparently, they said.
Right.
So they need to keep hold of him. That's he's one of the lads
that the future.
You know, Ahmad looks good, so he won't be going anywhere.
You know, it's all the other players on the budget. You got Sancho still there at Chelsea. You got Rashford on 350,000, whatever it is. That's ridiculous.
Højlund hasn't scored in 18 games now. He's not scored since December. Again, it's not. It's Amorim needs time, and he needs. I don't know how much money he's going to get, John, with all what's going on.
Well, I mean, with all these cutbacks, you know,
what's he going to have?
Yeah, exactly.
They're annoyed. The fan base are annoyed, and rightly so. But it's everything from top to bottom. It's not just your players. It's the whole running. It's the whole running of it.
And it always bothers me. I don't mind so much when you hear about transfers and they're too tight with their money. But it really bothers me, Stu, as a fan, being a loyal fan for this many years, when you see things like, oh, we're going to cut the disabled compensations. Oh no, that's gone. We're going to throw up the ticket prices, hike them up, and then we're going to get rid of all the staff that have probably been there for, the last 10, 15, 20 years even. And I heard an interview with Teddy Sheringham, and he said he went back there recently, and he said just doesn't feel the same anymore. Like the faces he'd see in the cafeteria, they're all gone. They've literally just said, well, no, we're going to cut that, but they'll cut that, but then they'll pay all this compensation on Ten Hag that they put a ridiculous contract on after the FA Cup victory last year, which you knew it still wasn't going to be right. But not a good time to be a Man United fan, to be honest.
An absolute mess. Just before we go, what about City and just how that run continued, that run that they went on? And I think teams have studied Pep's way, and a lot of teams have adopted it. And for a long time, people didn't know how to play against it because he had loads of different ways of doing it. But teams have mirrored it now. They've been sussed out. We've spoken about it, I think, in 2024, late 2024 when you were last on. Rodri not being there was massive. That's it. I think he was sussed out. I think Pep was finally sussed out. I really do. I believe that.
I remember when Pep first came in, there was always blowback because they said, you can't do what you did at Barcelona in the Premier League. You can't play this possession football. Now, after 2-3 years, everyone was playing that football. I mean, you've got teams coming up like last year, like Burnley, right? And they said, no, this is our philosophy. They got relegated with that philosophy, but it was more important to play this wonderful, attractive football than staying in the league. And Vincent Kompany got a job to Bayern Munich off the back of it. So Pep's had that huge influence in the Premier League where, like, now, kicking it out from the back, it's every flipping club's doing it, right? But like you say, I think they've studied it. And now, because everyone's doing it, it's almost like it's going to take another innovation to sort of become different again. Do I think he'll do it? I do, because I think with Man City, I do think they'll back him, and I do think they'll have to. You can tell the sort of players he's been bringing in now, he's looking at the future. I just think that he didn't expect Gundogan to have as many games as he was going to play. Kevin De Bruyne, unfortunately, as an amazing player as he is, just doesn't look like he's up to it as much. Even Haaland's had bad spells this season, which is a rarity. But listen, let's not take away. He has still won God knows how much.
Oh my days!
And the Champions League. So for these people that said, they need to get Pep out, I don't know what they're talking about, because I don't know who else is out there. I just think back him up again, do a rebuild, and judge him on next season now. Because
absolutely,
you remember Klopp a few years back; he had a dud season and then came back again. So yeah, it happens sometimes. But crikey, what he's given them is unbelievable.
It's just mad, and yeah, it's unfortunately it's happened to him this season. That's it.
Yeah.
But they'll they've signed people, haven't they, in the January window and stuff. So get them bedded in. Marmouche being one.
Absolutely.
He'll sort it. He'll sort it out. John. Just where the viewers and listeners can find you in terms of the socials, please, before you go, sir.
No worries, mate. Yeah, you can find me on Instagram, John Scott _ media. Find me on Instagram, all my stuff there. Hey, listen, I'm repping old school champ manager this year. I don't think you can see it. But
Sports Interactive.
This is a legit one from back in the day that I got recently.
There we go.
Very happy with that.
It's lovely.
Just throwing it out. Thank you. I was very impressed with your stuff. And you went to, of course, up Liverpool earlier. What was that? Was that last week or the week before, Stu, for the convention in wrestling?
In Manchester now at the Bowlers. But obviously it was in Liverpool though. Years before. Had an absolute blast.
Lots of great photos.
With shock afterwards. It's just funny. He goes, I need to take a leak. And then he came out the front entrance with us. He goes, where is Tom parking the car? I go, he's out there. And then there was a little chicken takeaway place up the road from the hotel he was staying at. He just wanted low key because he was getting up 4 a.m. on the Monday morning for his flight in Manchester. But it was just meeting the Mountie. And I told him, what was the first thing I told him, John? I hated you as a kid. I hated the Mountie. I hated him. I hated his laughing. But just surreal.
Yeah.
Being in the car with Jacques, and then having half an hour having food with him, and meeting Jake finally. Lex looked well. Lex looked really well, and he's obviously doing it with DDP now, isn't he? The yoga.
I've seen the clips.
Amazing. Mike Yoda, fantastic. The one that really just got me starstruck before meeting him, Sean Mooney, who you don't really hear about Sean Mooney as such.
No.
He was brilliant. He loved the JL House t-shirt with Bossman and Mountie on. He made reference to that. I love your t-shirt. But great fun. Well organised by Monopoly as well. I've been to conventions in the States. It was as good as, if not better, in terms of organisation. We'll definitely go again, John.
I think I'll go next year, actually.
We'll have to go. We'll have to do it, mate, on the Sunday. Absolutely. My guest today is Tottenham Hotspur fan, returning for his first appearance on Football Then and Now in 2025. And we'll have you back on before the end of the season, of course. It's Mr. John Scott. And just very, very quickly before I go, just a plug for the Sports Social Podcast Network. It's probably 600 and partners and counting, Europe's largest sports podcast network. More and more shows coming on board there. And if you've got a podcast and you'd like to be looked after by these guys, I cannot say enough good things about these guys. They're absolutely brilliant. They will put clips up on their socials of shows. We've had loads of clips go up, and the level of support that you get from the Sports Social Podcast Network being with these guys is amazing. So thank you very much to those guys. And John, all the best for tomorrow evening. And
thank you, mate. Thank you.
Hopefully you take that title and you're into the Champions League next season.
Lovely. Thank you very much.
Football then and now, a fun look at football nostalgia and the modern game intertwined. Join us.